times the two men were treated equally. At times there was ambiguity. We're not drawing any conclusions about motives or about racism. We see this as a window on society, as tonight we show you some of the ways in which they were treated differently. Because this didn't happen just once or twice. It happened every single day. Meet John Cunin and Glenn Brewer. They work together at the Leadership Council. They're both from the Midwest. They went to Big Ten schools, grew up in middle-class families, even play on the same softball team. They're friends. Two young men whose lives are virtually the same in every way but one, the one you can see. A few months ago, John and Glenn agreed to pack their bags and help with our investigation. Our question, how much difference does the color of your skin make in everyday life in America? For the answer, we went to the city of St. Louis, Missouri, where the two men moved into this motel and prepared to begin a new life. You really feel that you're equal?
Definitely. Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4.
The twist? Every day we'll be with them to show you what happens.
Set. All right. Let's do it.
Let us tell you a little bit about how we're going to go about this. We're going to send John and Glenn into a variety of situations, and we're going to monitor what's going on from the van. We'll be parked outside. One of the first things John and Glenn do is take a look around the city, go to a shopping center to pick up some things they need. John looks at some clothes. So does Glenn. They do some browsing, and right away, something catches our attention. When John walks up to this electronics counter, he gets almost instant service. But just a few minutes later, when Glenn walks up, he is ignored by not one, but two salesmen standing a few feet away. We didn't make anything of it until it happened again and again.
Need some help?
In the shoe department at this store, John gets instant attention and a hearty welcome. Yet when Glenn walks in just 3 minutes later, the salesman looks away. We run a stopwatch as the salesman continues to stare past Glenn. No hearty welcome for him.
I was standing there and standing there and standing there. And John just barely skirts the fringe of the department, and the guy comes over and he's joking, he's laughing, and that did not happen for me.
Even when the two men stroll into a nearby car dealership, Glenn walks up to a new car right in front of the showroom window. Once again, we run the clock.
I walked around the car, kicked the tires, looked under the rear at the muffler. It seemed an enormous amount of time to me to stand there and wait for me to spend my money.
So you're clear that they knew you were there?
Yes, there was a black salesman who looked at me and then looked away.
A black salesman? The same salesman who was there in an instant, the moment John set foot on the lot.
We can work it out for you. What do I have to do to earn your business? Shine your shoes.
What about that? What about that salesman? Julianne Malveaux and Clifford Alexander both study the social and economic consequences of race in America. She's an economist at Berkeley. He's a consultant and former Secretary of the Army.
His life lesson is the same life lesson that the white salesman got, that this is a group of people that for some reason I should deal with differently, despite the fact that I might make some money from them.
That different treatment became apparent in another way when our two testers went to a record store. John browses quietly, so does Glenn. That's him in the background. But now, watch the salesman approaching from the left. He stops next to Glenn. He's not offering to help him, he's tailing him.
And when I moved, he moved. And I think after about the second or third time when that happened, it suddenly dawned on me. He is there strictly to follow me around.
I was surprised to see him trailing Glenn in the shop because he wasn't trailing me.
This salesman who followed Glenn around in that store, men like that would say to you, this is not racist behavior. Black people commit more crime as a percentage of population. That's why I followed him.
Do you think that all 32 million black people should be judged by some statistic about crime in this society?
No, but the question is, what kind of blame do we put on this person?
I rest my case. It isn't a question of blaming the white person following. It's a question of understanding why he follows.
If this man had behaved suspiciously, if he had picked up something, put it down, perhaps put it toward his pocket, that would be one thing. He was browsing.
Nearly every day or night, someone treated Glenn like an outsider. For instance, one day, we locked the two men out of their cars, 40 feet away from each other. Glenn struggles all alone to get into his car. John, on the other hand, has a small crowd of passers-by, offering information and help.
If you call the police, they'll come opening for you.
Oh, well, that's okay.
Everybody who came by in my car, it seemed, had something to say to me.
And you?
Nothing. No help, no one.
One night, John and Glenn go for a walk in downtown St. Louis, one just ahead of the other. But when a police car passes by, it's Glenn who gets the pointed once over.
When he got to where John was, he rolled right by John.
But he stopped, leaned out the window, just to inspect you.
Yes.
And on another night, walking on a residential street in white South St. Louis, a truck slows down next to Glenn. Our microphone picks up the man leaning out and telling Glenn he's in the wrong neighborhood.
Go forward south, man.
Okay. The implication there was we were not where we were supposed to be.
Which is in the north part of St. Louis, as far as he was concerned.
Yes.
So you're constantly doing this calculus of, what am I going to do about this? Am I going to tell him to shove it? Am I just going to walk on by? Do I have the time, the energy? What is the cumulative effect of it? How bad is this day in and day out? It's the harmless kind of racism that if you accuse someone of it, they would say, well, gee, that's not cross-burning, and yet it still grinds exceedingly small.
Every day, John and Glenn keep diaries, and the grinding is clear when we stop to ask about those impressions.
You think you could make it here? No problem?
Yeah, I think that I could make it here and set up here if I wanted.
Knowing what has happened to me, I think I would be fairly discouraged.
At this point already?
Yes.
An emotional price is one thing. It's still another when the price is money out of your pocket. At a car dealership, John was told he could get a car for almost nothing down.
Financing available?
Glenn's told he'll need at least $2,000 down. Was it just a fluke? They try a second lot. They decide to ask about the same red convertible with the same salesman. First, how much of a down payment will be needed?
What do they usually ask down?
Anywhere from 10 to 20%. You know, it just depends, sure. Well, normally the banks want anywhere from 20 to 25%. So you're looking at a couple grand there.
Already, John's advantage is as much as $1,000. And what about the price of the car?
You could probably pick it up for somewhere around the 9 range.
9?
I mean, if I could get you in the car for, say, 95 even, think you'd be interested.
Once again, a big difference. Since we heard all of this from the van, we decided to get out and see if we could get some answers. The manager met us first.
What do we got today?
Can we talk to John Novak?
And then that salesman appeared, and we asked him why John and Glenn were quoted different figures.
Well, they're all different. It just depends.
Two guys come in looking at the same car. What's the difference? For him, the banks will do 10 to 20. For him, 20, 25? What's the difference?
Depends on the vehicle, ma'am.
They were looking at the same vehicle.
Oh, okay.
What's the difference?
We never did get an answer.
Is there a difference?
And we're not the only ones asking that question. Experts say car salesmen consistently regard blacks as less sophisticated customers and try to make them pay more. The result, according to a national study, black Americans pay twice the markup that whites do, at a cost of more than $150 million a year. And another way African Americans pay for the color of their skin is job discrimination. Over several days, John and Glenn apply for all kinds of jobs, signing up for job services, answering the want ads. Once again, from the very beginning, we notice something subtle but unmistakable. Not just what happens, but how they're treated.
Call tomorrow and ask for Don.
At a storefront job service, both our testers pay a fee and sign up.
If I give you a list of jobs, okay? And there's one particular job on there.
John is told pleasantly it's against the rules to share a confidential job listing with a friend. But when Glenn gets that information, it's a lecture, complete with a little warning about laziness.
I'm going to limit your jobs. I'm going to monitor you real close. Because I've had people come in here, give them good job leads, they never show up. They never show up. Because they're too lazy to work.
How often, how many times would you hear lectures about laziness or showing up or drug abuse?
Quite often, in a lot of the situations.
More than once, John is encouraged about a job while Glenn is turned down flat. This dry cleaning business is advertised for help out front, at the counter.
Once you fill an application, the positions are taken.
Positions taken?
Still positions available?
As far as I know, yes. Since John and Glenn have dealt with different people, we asked them each to go back a few days later to see if the same thing happens. It does. Glenn is told.
I really don't know anything about it.
John is told.
Yeah, they're still interviewing people.
Yeah? Positions are still available?
Yeah.
These are life-threatening situations. When you talk about a person's work, that's life-threatening to them. That's what they do.
At this point, there's only one more area to explore. John and Glenn need to find someplace to live. Right off, we start hearing something different.
The Catholic Church 4 blocks up the street.
The building manager gives John a relaxed description of the area. So you were being kind of welcome to the neighborhood.
Yeah. Whereas I felt like I would be in boot camp, and he was the drill instructor.
I'm strict and tough. I use whatever I have to enforce my limits.
He also made reference to the fact that he wanted to keep his building clean because it was not a ghetto.
There were other building managers who seemed perfectly cordial and businesslike.
What's included? All of this, gas and electric?
Yeah, we furnish stove and refrigerator.
Glenn left satisfied he had the same chance as anyone else at getting this apartment. But 5 minutes later, John arrived. Listen.
Is it a good neighborhood?
Oh, so far pretty good.
Yeah?
But they're moving in.
Really?
Yeah. I just showed this to them when I moved. Yep. I don't know how long it's going to be as good as it is. But
Have a nice day, racism. On the surface, let me show you this place, and I'm not going to do anything illegal as soon as you're gone, and one of them was just here.
And this is what happens when John and Glenn spot this sign at another apartment building and go in to inquire. John goes first.
a one-bedroom, air conditioning.
The manager gives John a set of keys.
The key system will work here, your master.
Okay.
Okay?
John tours the vacant apartment. He's told it's available immediately.
Got a couple other places I'm going to look at, and if I decide on this one, I'll be back. I'll have this filled up. Okay?
Okay, I appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you.
Bless you and have a good day.
John leaves. And listen what happens when Glenn walks in. Suddenly,
The apartment has been rented?
the manager explains that regrettably, early that morning, a woman paid a deposit on the last available apartment.
Oh, called in earlier this morning?
There's nothing for Glenn to see, so he leaves.
Bye-bye. You too.
Bless you both.
Okay.
Once again, we decide to go in search of an explanation.
May we ask you a couple of questions?
These two gentlemen came in, and when this one came in, you gave him keys to an apartment, one bedroom with air conditioning. But when this gentleman came in 10 minutes later, you said there was no apartment available.
No, I told this gentleman I had a call on the apartment.
But we pointed out what he had said. He had told Glenn the apartment had been rented by a woman that morning. Yet he showed John the apartment in the afternoon.
Oh, ma'am, I am not prejudiced. I got Mexican, I got Jewish, my God.
How many black people in this apartment?
There's none.
At this point, the building owner appeared, trying to throw us out.
I'm asking you to move your camera, okay? Out of the apartment or call the police to you, okay? We have never discriminated. As long as they don't have 4 or 5 kids, we do not have any empty, so out.
Later, Glenn remembered the manager's parting words.
He said, bless you both. And that infuriated me. How dare you wish blessings on me after you have just insulted me, after you have just told me that I can't live here because of the color of my skin.
We will have moved a step forward when white people feel as angry and as animated and as outraged about this as we do. I mean, we're not surprised, but whenever this is confronted, I'm confronted with this, I'm angry.
You're sitting in a democracy and you want to say, Jane or Johnny, you can go all the way. This is open. This is America. But you know what just happened to you in the store. And you know that that's America, too.
In quite a few ways, yes, it has been rough.
After 2.5 weeks, our investigation is over. And even these two professional discrimination testers say this was an experience that opened their eyes.
I didn't realize the big differences in all these situations, and I couldn't really believe it, that it was happening.
You walk down with a suit and tie, and it doesn't matter. You carry yourself in a very respectful manner. It doesn't matter. Someone will make determinations about you, determinations that affect the quality of your life, and the only basis is one thing that will not change about you. I'm not going to take off black skin. I'm going to be black forever.
After that investigation aired, one of the car salesmen we showed you, John Novak, sued us. He claimed he treated the two men differently, not because one was black and the other white, but because they showed different levels of interest in buying a car. Because Glenn, our black tester, drove the car and went into the showroom office, Novak claimed that Glenn was more interested and therefore was offered what Novak said was a more serious price, a higher price. Novak eventually dropped